This is the raw truth on how I was able to afford over 100 fragrances in my collection. So, one of my most asked questions on my social media pages is how did you get to this point? How were you able to afford this many fragrances? And today, I want to be really honest with you guys, and I want to be really straight up about how I accomplished this because I feel like this could be a really good learning experience for some people. So let's just go ahead and let's get right into it. So let's go ahead and start from the beginning. So I've always been a pretty big fan of fragrances because of my dad, and I always wanted to smell good. That's something that I've always done, especially since college. Obviously, when I was younger, I used to have like Axe and stuff like that. But I think when I really started to wear real colognes, it was probably around college when I started to wear more fragrances. Now, I do want to say, when I'm saying that I used to wear real fragrances, I mean I bought stuff at Ross. I bought stuff like just at regular places, like regular stores. And I just had the basics. And a lot of my fragrances were also just gifted to me. So I think around the college time, I was roughly at about a 3 to 5 fragrance rotation, depending on, whatever year it was, right? And then it got to a point where, I wore fragrances every day, right? I always liked to smell good. And I used to play tennis, so I used to shower at school, so I would just always bring my fragrances with me. And I would say that probably junior and senior year of college, my signature was Dior Sauvage. Like, I was wearing Dior Sauvage pretty much every single day. And then I had a couple other ones that I would wear for like special occasions, but they just were not that good quality. So Dior Sauvage was pretty much the best fragrance that I actually had. So after college, when I got my first job, I kind of climbed up through the ranks a little bit. But even though I had a good position at my job, I wasn't generating an income that I could still buy expensive things. Like I wasn't generating enough income for me to spend $200 plus on a fragrance. So at this point, I start diving into dupes. I start diving into fragrances, like houses like Lattafa and stuff like that, where I could get away with quote unquote more unique scents, but I was still not breaking the bank. And that is mainly one of the reasons why I still defend dupe fragrances to this day. And it's not because I consider them to be the best thing ever, but more about the fact that I know that at one point I couldn't justify the expense of spending $200 to $300 on a fragrance, and I was there, but I still wanted to smell good. I still wanted to have something that was unique. And so I think I resonate with people who like dupes still, or they can't justify a higher price point, because I was there at that one point, right? So I'm starting to spend money on just like getting dupe fragrances, Middle Eastern fragrances, whatever you want to call them. And that was how I was able to build my collection to about 10 to 15 fragrances or so. And then I used to also borrow fragrances from my dad. Because he was getting a little bit more pricier designers and stuff like that. And by this point, I also, you can always say, like, oh, why don't you have your family buy, like, more expensive fragrances for you? Like, I don't like to do that. That's just not usually my personality. When I ask for stuff, it'll be on my birthday and stuff like that. But other than that, I like to get my own stuff, right? Anyways, that's beside the point. So what happens, I start building up my fragrance collection to about 10 to 15 with just random cheaper fragrances from either Ross, Marshalls, or just straight up Lattafa fragrances. And it gets to a point that I actually end up transitioning jobs. So I found a great job opportunity, and I was blessed to have this job, and my pay was quite a bit better than what I was getting paid previously. So I kind of had a little bit more play money. So then I start to discover more expensive fragrances. And so because I have more play money, my taste of fragrances also kind of increases per se. And so then I'm like, you know what? I want to start getting fragrances that are more of like have a higher value, have a higher cost, just because I like them and I wanted them. It's as simple as that. It's like buying sneakers or buying clothes or buying purses. People like to buy them, And in my case, it was just fragrances. Simultaneously, at the same time, I make a decision that if I'm going to start actually spending time and money on fragrances, then I might as well make something out of it, right? And so I start documenting my journey and doing reviews. I've always liked watching reviews, and it helped me pick my fragrance choices, So I figured, hey, let me just go ahead and, record my journey, and then I can help people out to help them choose their fragrances, and also just documentation of my life, of how I got to where I got to. So slowly but surely, my TikTok starts getting a little bit of traction. I was posting relatively often. Well, I first started just posting like once every 2 to 3 weeks. And then eventually I was like, nah, I gotta lock in. And so I started posting pretty much every single day on TikTok. And so by this point, I'm already starting to see some growth on my TikTok page. I started getting a couple hundred, then it turned to a couple thousand. And that's when I'm like, oh shoot, like maybe I can do something with this. And I'm gonna be fully transparent. At this point, I'm like, well, maybe I can get to a point where I can pay for my fragrances through my videos. I see so many people making so much money. So let me just go ahead and try to see if I can ever get to that point. At first, I was like kind of doing it for the sake of doing it, and was like hopeful that maybe, I would be able to get some money back from it and then be able to fund my fragrances that way. And tell you that actually pretty quickly, I was like, nah, I'm doing this. I'm gonna pay for my fragrances through videos, because I'm ambitious like that. Like if I know I can do something, I'm just gonna have to go ahead and do it. And so I'm gonna be very transparent in that aspect. A lot of people might be scared to say that it got to a point where I was looking at my videos as a money sign. And I personally don't think there's anything wrong with you making money online or in social media, especially at this day and age, that having another side gig is very important, because sometimes you can't just rely on one job to make it through. So got to a point that I'm just like, hey, like I'm gonna make money off of this. And so I started investing in fragrances that I liked, but they were a little bit of a higher caliber, which is when I started to buy a lot of Louis Vuitton fragrances. Before, not only did I not have the money, but if I did have the money, I couldn't justify something like that. That's a lot of money, right? But thanks to my new job, thanks for my new channel, I was like, this will be a long-term investment, and then I'll eventually be able to pay for my fragrances through my videos. So as I continue to grind in my videos start to get more views. Eventually I hit 10K, and then I can start monetizing my videos. And so at this point, I start, trying to monetize my videos through views, trying to get viral videos going. And eventually, after, I think I got probably 40 to 50 fragrances that I bought myself. And then at this point, it's a rough estimate. I don't remember 100% how many fragrances I had, but I had funded my own, around 40 to 50 fragrances on my own. And then at this point, brands start to reach out because they wanted to send me stuff to just review. And so from that point on, after being able to build my page, that's when more fragrances start to come in, when I don't necessarily have to spend my own money on it. So it goes from there, and then eventually it was all types of fragrances that I got PR from. I got PR from regular designer fragrances. I got PR from niche fragrances. Or sorry, not niche fragrances, but niche houses. I got PR from Middle Eastern fragrances. So I was getting PR from pretty much everywhere. And at this point, this is where my career is at right now. They reach out to me, or sometimes I even reach out to them. And if I really like their product and I think that it's a really, really good product, I'll reach out and I'll say, hey, I would love to review your fragrances. And so basically we got to this point where now I have over 100 fragrances. They're not all on my display. Some of them are in boxes over there because they just simply don't fit. And that was my journey on how I built my fragrance to get to this point. Now, why did I decide to make this video? It's not to flaunt, it's not to be a show off, but I wanted to talk about my real progression on how I grew my fragrances. And I want to make it very clear too that you should be ambitious to what you want. And you should turn your passions or things that you really enjoy into monetary value. And I'm very firm on that, because a lot of people will tell you, hey, you should not try to make money on this. But why not? why would you not try to monetize your passion? And it doesn't have to be fragrances. It could be whatever you want it to be. If you like sneakers, why not try to monetize sneakers? If you like drawing, why not try to monetize your drawings? Why not try to make your passion something that can make you money? I don't see anything wrong with that, and in this day and age, I don't see why anybody wouldn't choose to do that. There's a million and one things that you can make money on, so why not do it? Why not fund your passion with your own art of it, right? My explanation of how I like my fragrances has value to it, and people value my opinion, and even if they don't, that's fine. I'm fully content with that. There will be people that don't like my opinions, right? And that's fine. If you don't like them, that's fine. Cool. Move on to another creator. And maybe, you know, people find people who they resonate with, and that is why a lot of people are making a lot of money when it comes to video reviews in general, because people do mukbangs, people do whatever, right? So if you have a passion, why not chase that dream of making that make you money, and then you can live the life that you want to live, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that you have to quit your job. I'm not saying that this has to be your main source of income. I'm not saying that you have to be a sellout. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that your opinion has value, your personality has value, and we live in a day and age where you can easily monetize that, so why not go for it? And that is why this video just came to mind, because I was like, I think it is a pretty cool progression on how I made this happen, right? I pretty much did have to invest some at first, but then now, because of the content that I can provide, brands value my opinion, and they value the fact that I can bring more traffic to their pages, and so they just decided they want to send it out, and that helps me build my collection, something that I truly value, right? And so, yeah, that's pretty much the point of this video. Just wanted to give you guys a real and honest, transparent story about how I got to this point, and I want to motivate you to do the same. If you have a passion, I want you to go out there and chase your dream of whatever it is. If it's content creation, content creation. If it's sales, it's sales. Whatever your dream is, I want you to go chase it, because if you don't do it, you're always going to regret the fact that you didn't take the step. And people are going to hate on you. People are going to say all these sorts of things. But this is your life. You're the main character. Make it happen. And I want to see you succeed. Thank you guys for watching. Show love to the channel if you want to. If that's something that, you know, comes from the heart. You want to like, comment, subscribe, whatever it is. Thank you. I appreciate it. Anyways, like I always say, thank you guys for watching. And make sure to follow Tony Aromas for more.